Welcome to AstroVenture, the DSLR astrophotography channel.
Hey there, AstroVenturers, welcome back. If you're new to this astrophotography channel, my name is George, and this is the astrophotography channel for DSLR and mirrorless camera bodies, combined with the lenses we already own and a simple star tracker like the SkyGuider Pro or the Star Adventurer. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you about the different frames that you shoot for stacking your images. To get started, the first frame is going to be the lights, because without that, there's no point for the rest of it. The lights, those are your images of the actual target. Now, the general thinking, and it's correct and true, is that the more time you have, the better. My personal observation, I have found that once I go beyond 3 hours of data, it starts to become diminishing returns. The amount that I'm gaining becomes less and less, and it's just more time spent in the field. So myself personally, I go for 3 hours on a target, and that's where I stop at. Sometimes I'll shoot about 3.5, and that has to do with throwing out those frames that are not keepers, but ultimately I want to have about 3 hours worth of data. Beyond that, it just isn't worth it, in my opinion, for my astrophotography. So that's the lights. Next up, of course, is the darks. And the darks are nothing more than whatever your camera is set and shooting at, you simply put the lens cap on and continue to shoot. Now, most important part with that is you want to be shooting at the same temperature and conditions that you shot your lights in. The reason being is that what the darks are doing is they're helping the stacking software to identify noise and hot pixels off of your sensor. And that's going to change based on the ambient temperature and shooting conditions. So if I were to shoot on a freezing night for my lights, and then I throw it into my vehicle, turn on the heater, and continue to shoot with all of the same settings, that's going to affect the sensor differently because the ambient temperature in my vehicle is different. My general thinking is, and what I found that works well for me, is with my darks, I will shoot about 1 hour worth of darks. After that, I haven't seen, again, diminishing returns. I haven't seen that much more to be gained out of going beyond the hour. So I shoot 1 hour of darks. Now, something that's kind of obvious that I hadn't thought about until one day, it just kind of, If you were shooting on a night where you have clouds that keep passing through, be proactive. Every time a cloud comes in, messes up your shooting condition, don't stop shooting. Go over there, put your lens cap on, and start shooting those darks. And then once the cloud's out of the way, then you can pull that cap off and resume with your lights. That way there at the end of the night, maybe you only have a half an hour of dedicated darks that you're sitting down to shoot before you leave. So that's just a tip, one of those obvious things, but if you don't think about it, I guess it's not so obvious. Moving into our calibration frames. The first calibration frame that I want to talk about is your flats. Now, when I'm talking to people that are new and getting started, I will often refer to it as flat lights, just to help people kind of get it organized in their thinking when they're getting started. But they're called flats. And what a flat is you're going to need a bright screen. So in this case, because I already have my computer in the field with me, I'll bring up my Photoshop and I will bring up a white background. You can also search online and just grab an image, a JPEG of something white, and just open up the image. But you want something evenly lit and white. Now, you will see some people where they will talk about putting a t-shirt over the end of their lens and pointing it towards the sky during the daytime to get those shot. But personally, I want to do it at the time that I am shooting, in the ambient temperature in which I'm shooting, in addition to the fact that I don't want to accidentally bump my focus. I don't want to bump the focal length that I'm shooting at. I don't want to accidentally change anything. And I just know that if I pack up my gear and wait till the daytime the next day, I'm going to disturb something. So I'll use my laptop and get it done all at once. So we shot the lights, we shot the darks, we were moving on to the flat. So with the camera, I'm going to switch it over to an aperture priority. I'm careful that I don't disturb my focal length, I don't disturb my focus, I don't change any of the settings other than kicking it over to aperture priority, where the camera will now choose the shutter speed. I will then turn the camera, I will put it right up to the face of the laptop display, and I will watch the shutter speed on the top of my camera to see what it's choosing to shoot at. We'll say it's 1/200th of a second, and I will now shoot 25 frames. Now, before I continue, the reason why I said 25 frames, from reading and my own experience, I have found that with these calibration frames, flats, flat darks, and biases, 25 seems to do the trick for me. Anything more than that, I just don't see any additional gain out of it. So all my calibration frames are set at 25. So we shot the 25 of them. I noted that it was shooting at 1/200th. I've got the frames. I'm good to go. Next, it's time to move on to my flat darks. To shoot flat darks, it's really easy. We're going to take the camera. Again, don't disturb your focal length. Don't disturb your focus. Don't change any settings, but put the camera back over to manual. Now, when you do that, that's going to put your camera back to bulb mode, because that's what originally you were shooting your lights and darks with. And remember how I said on aperture priority for the flats or flat lights, we noted that the camera happened to be shooting at 1/200th? Well, we put the camera in manual. We're going to set the shutter speed to 1/200th of a second. We're going to take our lens cap, put it back on, and now we're going to shoot 25 additional frames. And that's that. Now, a little trick, because the next frame coming up is the bias. One of the things that I like to do is once I get done shooting my 25 flat darks, I'll pull that lens cap off, turn on a dome light, or maybe point at somebody's headlight that I put somewhere, and I'll take a single photo so that when I get to my computer, I've got that bright picture in between my flat darks and my biases, so that when I'm dragging the images off to the appropriate folders, I know exactly where that break is between flat darks and biases. So let's move on. Now, the last image that we're going to be shooting is the biases. For the biases, your lens cap is on, and you're going to still be in manual, and you're going to set your shutter speed as fast as the camera will shoot. Now, if you were shooting mirrorless, my recommendation, and I don't have any rhyme nor reason other than just my own gut instinct, I go with 1/8000th of a second for mirrorless. But if it's a DSLR, you're going to be limited to either 1/4000th of a second or 1/8000th. And then shoot 25 frames of your bias. And there you go. You have all of your different frames that you need to shoot. You have your lights, your darks, and the calibration. So with all of these images shot, what are they doing for you? Well, obviously your lights, that's the actual image. And like I said, I find that about 3 hours. Beyond that, it's diminishing returns. I really see a definite improvement getting up to that 3 hours, but beyond that, it really just kind of falls off and I don't notice it so much. Moving on to the darks. What the dark is doing for you, that's helping to identify noise because your sensor is heated up, as well as hot pixels. Moving on to your first calibration frame, the flat or flat light, that's helping to eliminate vignetting that happens from your lens, as well as any dirt spots, and ultimately it will also help towards, again, noise. All of this stuff helps towards noise. Next, we have our flat darks. The flat darks is, again, looking for noise. Finally, we have bias. Bias is, again, removing noise. And sometimes it has to do with noise being removed from just the fact that it's an electronic and it's operating. Sometimes it has to do with the sensor heating up. Sometimes it has to do with the higher ISO. But collectively, they're all working towards eliminating noise and getting rid of dust spots. It also helps to get rid of streaking satellites, planes. Putting it all together, it's truly magic what programs like Deep Sky Stacker or Sequitur do. So I hope this helps and takes some of the mystery out of what is involved with all of the different frames that you should be shooting at the end of a night. I personally like to do it all on location at ambient temperature that night. I know some people also like to build files that they save of shooting at a certain shutter speed, aperture, focal length, ISO, and they just save them. I like to shoot a new set each time just because I figure, you know what, it's an electronic, it wears over time, and who's to say it's always going to be done under exactly the same conditions. So that's just my personal thoughts. And when I only shoot an hour of darks and 25 of each of the calibration frames, it really doesn't take me much longer to just knock that out each time that I go out and shoot. And that way I know I have good information each time. And in closing, before I let you go, if you like this video and you like the content that we're doing, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell so that you stay current whenever we release a video, which is every Friday. And then if you also are unaware, we have a Facebook group called AstroVenture DSLR, and that's where I hang out a lot, as well as a lot of other people shooting the type of setup that we're all using with simple star trackers and camera lenses. So I would love to see you there as well. So until next time, I wish you clear skies and uneventful nights.